Perfectionism and the quest for it is going to rob your homeschool. Even if you don't think of yourself as a perfectionist, don't click away yet. I really want you to stick around because I'm going to talk to you too. This topic has been on my heart for a while, and I couldn't quite figure out what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it because perfectionism can look really different than what we think of it as looking like. If you take a look at my house, or frankly, how I present myself some days or such, it doesn't look like what I think of as a perfectionist. But when you know that I often avoid things because I'm afraid of not doing it right, you have a better understanding. That's one way perfectionism looks that you might not think of it. And how does that relate to your homeschool? Well, you may have noticed that I've not really been around a lot this summer, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Part of it was that I was just avoiding being on here because I was struggling in so many other ways that I didn't want to get on here and give advice because I felt like a failure is an exaggeration, but I've just really struggled this summer in a variety of ways. And so to get on here, right? So there's that perfectionism. I can get on here and tell you guys that I've struggled, and that specifically our homeschool was not at all ready to get started. And in the first hour of our homeschool yesterday, I realized I had no books checked out for Ben for any of his subjects. I had not yet put any of the new apps that we need on the iPad. The new iPad I hadn't set up for any of our apps. And on and on. So I could get on here and tell you all of that. And you guys might take that sigh and be like, oh, finally, someone who doesn't have it together. But for me, being on this side and coming here to tell you that is not humbling, but kind of like it's one more way of saying, like, you know what, none of us have it all together. And the balance is hard for a lot of us. And that's great. I should be telling you that. But that fear of not having it all together and knowing how much that I've struggled and how this summer doesn't look at all like what I wanted it to look like because I couldn't get myself together. It's kind of hard to admit. But that's exactly why I'm on here. Because that desire to do things perfectly prevents us from doing the now. Perfectionism can rob you of getting started. It can rob you of moving forward. It can rob you of just letting yourself be present for what's going on right now. And it can rob you of the joy of what's going on because you're so concerned with whether it's going to go perfectly and where you might have made a mistake. And so those moments of just being able to sit back and watch your kids experience whatever they're experiencing in their homeschool, it's hard to do that when you're worried about what you didn't do. And so as you go into the school year, I want you to really think about that. I've had the opportunity recently to be in conversation with several new homeschool moms who, in their own words, are terrified of getting started. Because what if they did the wrong thing? What if they did the wrong thing by choosing to homeschool, by pulling their kids out of a school that they were really satisfied with? If they chose the wrong curriculum? All the things that we worry about. And my words to them, like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have failures. You're going to have gaps in education. But it doesn't mean that you're not the one who should be doing what you are choosing to do for your family. There is no requirement that your homeschool is a perfect homeschool. No one's going to rip your homeschool away from you for that. Public school teachers make mistakes all the time, and they'll tell you that. They forget lessons. They forgot to have some test printed. Well, not anymore. Yeah, you don't print tests anymore, but you know what I mean. They forgot the lesson planner at home. They forgot the order that they placed for some new science materials didn't come in. Whatever. Things happen, right? If someone runs into you at the store, bumps into you with their grocery cart, no problem, right? We are so willing to give, in general speaking, and if you're watching, you're probably that type. We're so willing to give other people grace that we don't what's that word? We don't give to ourselves. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for. But if you are of a perfectionist mindset, it can be really hard to see that that's okay, that you are going to make mistakes, and that grace is going to come upon you, and it's all going to be fine. Because when you've got that mindset, small mistakes seem monumental. When we are worried about perfectionism, often what's really going on is that we're comparing ourselves to others. And not just to others, but to others' highlight reels. When I'm comparing myself, and I struggle with this just as much as anyone, when I do it, what am I comparing myself with? I am comparing myself with other people's family vacations versus what I'm looking at in my own home or on my own vacation. I am comparing myself and my dress, my outfit, with the mom who has a natural bent for style and always looks put together, even without much trying on her part. She'll admit it, right? Or the mom who does put in a lot of effort. What we see on social media or what we perceive from others, it's kind of like their highlight reels and versus our reality, right? If you're scrolling social media, you see the pictures that are the best ones. In the meantime, over your phone, you're looking at your kids yelling at each other, or you see the mess behind. It's on the other side that you're avoiding for whatever reason. And when we compare that, well, that's not even equal, right? If you're going to compare whatever your reality is, you need to compare it with the reality of someone else's. And how many people in public are putting their reality out there? I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not, like, when my kids have a rough day, I'm not posting that on social media, like the reality of that moment. I might talk about how I dealt with it or my frustrations with it, but I'm not putting their dirty laundry out there. For public consumption, I'm not putting out there when my kids are struggling. I share struggles that my kids have with different learning struggles, but that's their story. And so I'm only giving you a glimpse of it because it's not mine to share. Just as it's not anyone else's to share all of it. And it's not that we're hiding from each other necessarily. Some people do. But there's a difference in what we present, right? And what we just let hang out there. There are those homeschool influencers out there who everything looks perfect. But as someone who's on the other side of that, I can tell you it's not. Not just because of what my own experience, but because I'm in those groups and I see what's going on. And I know that a lot of those photos staged with curriculum they're doing because they've been paid by that curriculum company to promote it. So that's why it looks so perfect. Or they are hoping that you will like it so much that you'll click through to their blog or to their video so that you're helping them to build traffic. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we see those things and we compare it to what we're living, that gets really dangerous for us. So perfectionism can rob us of getting started and experiencing the now. It can keep us in the comparison trap. But perfectionism has one more side that's really underrated. We want our kids to be resilient, right? How do you become resilient? By growing from the mistakes. A mindset of everything has to be perfect is keeping you from doing that. It's robbing you of the opportunity to learn from what went wrong. You are going to be robbed of the opportunity to learn about yourself and what kind of homeschool parent you are, what you like and what you need. It's keeping you from learning that about your kids. And those are not all the same, and they all need to be valued. I've talked about that a lot. Your needs in the homeschool and their needs in a homeschool are all important. Perfectionism keeps you from learning how to pivot in the moment when a lesson's not going right because you're so afraid of doing it wrong that you're depending on a curriculum to tell you what's the right thing to do. And it's robbing you of the opportunity to learn to adapt curriculum. It is fantastic, if that's what you need, that curriculum is out there that will tell you what to do each day. Even some will give you that whole script of exactly what to say. But what happens when that doesn't go right? What happens when you get behind or you need to do it in the car because that's just what the day is, and you can't read because you're driving? What then? What happens when you are behind and you need to catch up? How do you adapt when your perfectionism is keeping you tied to that curriculum? So much so that you can't figure it out. That's when you learn to adapt and define what works for you and find what works for your kids. But if you're stuck in perfectionism, you're not getting that opportunity. And you're not letting yourself do that in a healthy mindset. Because even when you are trying to catch up, that reel that's going through your head is about how you failed, how you should have been more organized yesterday morning to get everything done in your home and your homeschool, and that's why you have to play catch up today. No, you're playing catch up today because that's life. That's what letting yourself not be perfect will help you do. It will help your homeschool not struggle with being behind because you've already planned to be behind, because you already expect that you're going to be behind, because nothing goes perfectly. All of these things are ways to grow yourself and model that to your kids. But to have that opportunity, you have to let go. And that, my friends, is a struggle. It is a struggle. And I want to be very clear to you that I don't have it all together at all. At all. Like I shared, my first 2 days of homeschooling were a lot. Next week doesn't look like it's going to be much better, honestly. So my friends, I don't know. I feel like when I come on here, I want to be able to share like some real encouragement for you to go forward. I don't have any of that. Really, I want you to know that you're not alone, and that perfectionism looks really different than what we might think it does, and that it's robbing you of so much. And I don't want that for you. I want you to enjoy wherever you are in your homeschool world. Because I've just sent my daughter back to school, and I've got an 8th grader and a 10th grader, and the time is, I'm not going to cry. But the time is almost gone. And that's why I've been trying so hard the past few years to reclaim that joy in our homeschool. And this pushback against perfectionism isn't the only advice I've got to share that I've learned the hard way. I've got a playlist right over there for you. Go check out and see what else I have learned the hard way so that you don't have to. Thanks for watching.